Good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the radiology of the maxillary sinus and maxillary sinusitis. Coming to the extraoral views. Under extraoral views you have occipital, which is also called as Waters view. You have lateral skull, submental vertex, orthopentomography and your CT scan. Coming to the intraoral views, you have occlusal, lateral occlusal and periapical radiograph. This is a picture showing your occipitomental, which is also called as Waters view. You can see a clear radio-opaque maxillary sinus on the right side and a radiolucent maxillary sinus on the left side. The radio opacity indicates that there may be any pathology related to your right maxillary sinus. Either it may be presence of fluid or any pus or any presence of any solid mass. This is your orthopantomograph and the reddish color shows your maxillary sinus. The yellow color is your maxillary first molar, and the maxillary sinus is situated above your maxillary first molar. This is your lateral skull showing your maxillary sinus, which is present above your maxillary molars. This is your CT scan. This is the actual view of the CT scan. Clearly you can see the presence of bilateral maxillary sinus, which is present lateral to your hard palate. This is another CT scan with the coronal view. Here you can clearly see both the orbits, both the maxillary sinuses, the hard palate, the maxillary alveolar processes, the lateral wall of the nose, the nasal septum, and you can see your mandible, the tongue. In this you can see the shape of the maxillary sinus. And this is a picture showing your occlusal view of your occlusal view. Here in this occlusal view you can see maxillary sinus, which is present buccally in relation to your upper maxillary molars. You can clearly see your radiolucency, which is present buccally to your maxillary molars. And this is your normal intraoral periapical radiograph, which is showing your maxillary first and second molars, and you can see your presence of your maxillary sinus, which is in close proximity to the roots of your maxillary first and second molar. See the arrow showing. Coming to the endoscopy, you have direct optical evaluation of the antral floor region. This is the advantage of the endoscopy. The path of access used are: one is transoral via canine fossa. The canine fossa is, the advantage of choosing canine fossa is you have a very thin labial cortical plate above your canine, and you have transalveolar via connection between oral cavity and antrum. Another one is transnasal approach. Coming to the applied surgical anatomy of the maxillary sinus. First one is the relation of root apices with the floor of the maxillary sinus. Most commonly, the root apices of maxillary first, second and third molars are in close proximity to the maxillary sinus. Next one is lining of the maxillary sinus. Coming to the foreign bodies in the maxillary sinus. Infections of the maxillary sinus. Next one is oroantral communication. Next one is tumors associated with maxillary sinus. Next is placement of implant. First one is coming to the relation of root apices with the floor of the maxillary sinus. There are chances of creating oroantral fistula in patients less than 15 years are comparatively less than in adult. In adult, the distance between apical end of maxillary posterior teeth and the floor of the sinus is approximately 1 to 1.5 centimeters. The second molar is in close proximity to the antral floor, followed by the first molar, third molar, and your second premolar and also first premolar. So you should be very careful while extracting or removing your first and second and your third molars. The presence of an unerupted tooth in the maxillary tuberosity is a potential line of fracture. The periapical infection of the tooth, which are in relation with the antrum, may cause an oroantral fistula. Since walls of the sinus are thin, any tumor which develops here may erode these walls and present swelling on the cheek, palate, or in buccal mucosa. Since sinus wall is very thin in area of canine fossa, it can be used for diagnostic aspiration and for Caldwell look operation. The antral puncture can be carried out by puncturing into sinus cavity through medial meatus in children and intermediate and inferior meatus in adult. Coming to the Ongren's line. Ongren's line is an imaginary line that extends from medial canthus of the eye to the angle of the mandible, which divides the sinus into antero-inferior and posterior-superior. You can see the picture showing the line drawn from the medial canthus of the eye to the angle of the mandible. It is significant in determining the stage of antral tumor. In general, the tumor below the line has a better prognosis than the tumor above the Ongren's line. That is the clinical importance of Ongren's line. Coming to the maxillary sinusitis. It is clinically defined as an inflammatory response involving mucous membranes of nasal cavity and paranasal sinuses. Coming to the classification. According to duration, next is presence or absence of polyp. According to the duration, you have acute, that is, which is seen in 7 days to 4 weeks, and you have subacute, that is 4 to 12 weeks. Chronic, which is present more than 12 weeks. Next one is recurrent acute, where you have recurrent episodes per year. Next one is presence or absence of polyps or etiology. Under this you have bacterial, fungal, viral, mycobacterial and parasites. Coming to the maxillary, under the maxillary sinus you have eccentric causes and intrinsic causes. Coming to the eccentric causes, here you have infectious causes, that is, it may be bacterial, viral, fungal or parasitic. And you have non-infectious causes, those are allergic, non-allergic, pharmacologic and irritants. Next you have disruption of mucociliary drainage, either due to surgery, infection or trauma. Coming to intrinsic causes, under this you have genetic and acquired. Under genetic, structural, immunodeficiency, mucociliary abnormality. Under acquired you have aspirin hypersensitivity, autonomic, dysregulation, hormonal, structural. Under structural you have tumors, cysts. Next one is idiopathic, and finally immunodeficiency. Coming to the diagnosis of maxillary sinusitis. Under this you have history and physical examination. Under physical examination you have to inspect, palpate, percuss. Under diagnostics techniques you have rhinoscopy, endoscopy, nasal valve examination and cultural sensitivity. What are the coming to the clinical signs of maxillary sinusitis? Patients complain of pain, fever, headache aggravated on bending, that is your bending of your head. Then you have nasal stuffiness, nasal discharge. The nasal discharge may be either mucoid, purulent or foul smelling. Then you have epistaxis. Epistaxis is nothing but bleeding, coming of blood through your nose. It's called as epistaxis. Or you have referred odontalgia. Or referred odontalgia is nothing but patients complain of pain in the tooth, that is maxillary molars, which are present below your maxillary sinus. Coming to the management of maxillary sinusitis. Under management you have medical and surgical. Under medical you have prescribed antibiotics. Next one is mucolytics, nasal decongestants, prescribed analgesics, antihistamines, and nasal spray and hydration. Under mucolytic agents, the examples of mucolytic agents are camphor and eucalyptus oil. The examples of nasal decongestants are xylometazoline and ephedrine. Coming to this surgical management, under this you have sinus aspiration and sinus lavage. And second one is Caldwell look procedure. Third one is FES. FES is nothing but functional endoscopic sinus surgery.